Okay, so welcome to the node.js package maintenance team for July 9th, 2019. We'll follow the standard agenda, which is outlined in the issue, which is issue number 227. And we'll start out with, are there any announcements or anything that people would like to make? Okay. Let's move on to the agenda then. Just taking quick notes here to make sure I have everybody in the tent who's here so far. So the first thing is a few issues. I think the 220, 218, and 192, which are all related to the support levels. Probably 220 is the one to start with in terms of what's being discussed. And actually, let me share that. And we can go from there. So there was quite a bit of discussion back and forth on this one. And I guess the two contentious things to be is whether, a file or in the package.json and the other dimension is sort of dynamic or static. I think those are the two. Am I missing any major discussion that's been going on?
No, I think you've captured it, but a lot of the parties to that are not on the call. And I think it's moving towards the file being suggested for the reasons at the conference where we just wanted to keep it clean. But there is also now really the sort of the GitHub version of support.md. And it's opened really, we start with simple discussions and it gets very complicated quite quickly because there are really kind of like competing, well, not competing, there are several ideas that can all work, but we have to choose one.
Right. So what was the GitHub one?
So I see from LJ, he's basically saying that there's a GitHub compliant support.md file. Now, if we choose to take it out of package.json and put it in there, what is that compliance and what are they doing? And that I think was new to people.
Markdown. Yeah.
I don't know about this. But what we need to do is I'll take an item and I'll ping LJ because I did notice he put on Twitter the other day that he's taken a break from Airbnb to spend more time with his family. I'll ping him and say, can you tell me a little bit more? And I'll work on that with them.
Parsing. I mean, I think he even brought up the issue that the markdown file is pretty tough in terms of parsing.
Yeah.
So I guess, I agree that unfortunately, we don't have everybody, but it might be worth spending just, say 5 minutes with the group that we do have here to see if we come to some consensus to get this going again.
So Edgar, you got any feelings on the support.md file? Because I'm just going to do a quick bit of research on this.
Yeah, I mean, if we're planning to parse it, that's a pretty non-standard format for, communicating data that we're going to be parsing and utilizing, especially for Manuel had put together the tool already.
Yes.
Validates the spec that we discussed. I know to some extent there's probably a way to parse the README. But what gain are we getting from creating it as a README file if we're going to be parsing the JSON chunks anyway?
Yes, that's the thing. Yes, the complexity it's adding. And something just occurred to me now. Would it not be easier to do it the other way, to generate the support.md from the package.json? And they're talking about it cluttering. And then but no, I think the point stands. Parsing JSON is straightforward, and we don't really want to have to make a markdown parser.
Right.
That's a big negative.
We could propose that you write a JSON file, and then there was a suggestion to make a tool to give you an MD.
Yeah.
which you would commit as well.
I think we're going to have to say that this is, like a lot of extra work to produce the same thing. And the reason why we didn't want to do it was purely because it cluttered up the package.json. I don't know if it really is.
Yeah.
Just a quick question, just to make sure. When we're talking about Markdown 1, is it parsing the front matter, or is it parsing the sort of data out of Markdown in some other form?
It'd be getting the data out of the Markdown.
Yeah.
JSON, we can quite easily define, it's basically meant to say, find me these keys and this hierarchy of keys, whereas Markdown's just meant for text, right? And so for something like a license file where it's just basically text, that kind of makes sense. Although even I wonder if, because what happens, I think, for license files is the thing that gets parsed is, well, I shouldn't say that completely, but there is an entry in the package.json, and then people may actually also parse the text to make sure it's matches one of the licenses that they know, right?
Yeah, the licenses, they have default placeholders, so it's sort of, you can, does the support MD, does it have a standard terminology or something like that?
I can't find one.
I think that kind of opens us up to not having one by using an MD.
Yeah, exactly. I'm looking. I can't. That's why I said I'll reach out to LJ. I don't know of one, and I've done a few quick Googles, and I think it's just basically here's an MD file, here's the story, here's the words I'm going to say, but it's not like a defined format.
Right.
And we don't want to get into that world. We like defined format and protocol. That's what we're about.
I mean, I think we'd already...
Where we're saying we should general, and I see discussion about which kinds of comments.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't, can you repeat that? I didn't quite follow.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I started hearing other voices come in, other folks talking. I don't see where we're talking about using Markdown as the data source for validating that the content of the file is correct. I see people noting that in documentation they want to format JSON and what's the right way to write comments. But I don't see anyone proposing using an MD instead of a JSON for the actual support definition.
It's 218. It's 218 and in 220. So it goes over a few, and it was talked about at the conference very briefly. So if you look at the top of issue 218, support fields, a support license, we start talking about it in there right at the top. That's on June the 3rd.
In the PR support file 220, PR number 220, it says that it closes number 218 as it is. And it seems like we say that if it's a local, or LJ says if it's a local file or in package.json. Let's see. I remember reading through this, and what I got from it was that while maybe it's not preferable to have a separate file, we could proceed with a separate file and it wouldn't, ruin our day or anything like that. But I think in the end, it looks like we all agreed that it should be a JSON format. People are talking about how to write comments in the JSON file. So I think the conversation on whether it's supposed to be an MD is closed at this point based on this chat.
Okay, let's take that as something we can accept then, because that would worry me.
Yep. The other thing is we'd already included a URL in the JSON that we had, and I think actually changing that to point to an MD file might make sense. Like we could make that point to, the recommendation that point to support.md. So if you want to actually write out something which is more text and more explanation based, you can do that. And there's your link to get that readable document.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And if there is if people have started to use, I can see a few places where I see support.mds. Although I'm not sure that they end up being, a bunch of them are like support. How do you get support with this as opposed to the support provided? I guess that's similar though.
Yeah, people note in the conversation that with like package.json, you can do npm show and get some amount of information.
Mm-hmm.
We could work with npm to include the support data. If it was in package.json, they'd already be set up to do it. It'd be really straightforward for them. But by having it in a separate file, we'd have to know about it and utilize it in their apps.
Right.
Good.
Right. Whereas, from that, the best, like if we, because that was one of the things that we were a bit of back and forth was like, well, how do you, if the answer is that whatever you've published, the latest version in your repo wins, or in your latest version of the module wins, you want to be able to get that easily, right? And I guess, what you just pointed out is you can only get that easily if it's in the package.json, not if it's, well, no, there needs to be a reference in the package.json to the file, I think. Is that right?
Well, what I was getting at is like on the NPM support side, considering, their level of bandwidth to do, stuff for us, ebbs and flows, making it easier for the ecosystem to kind of absorb the things that we're trying to create to make it easier for maintainers, utilizing what they already have, or at least checking with them to say what's the possibility, like if we do or if we don't. I don't know if that would be helpful to have like a follow-up test to say, NPM, we have this concern that if we wanted to add some data to NPM show command, or any command that they have in NPM to get information about a package, if we wanted to add our support JSON to that, would it be the same either way? And then we can create this new file and it's clean and separate, and the package.json isn't going to get bloated with an extra dozen lines? Or would it make it easier in the short term, or to get it implemented at all, for them to start utilizing the package package support information from within the package.json file, right? If it's like a 1 month turnaround, or if they can show us the line where to fix it, maybe we could even fix it ourselves and just end that aspect of the conversation.
Right, because I remember, so I'm just trying to remember what there was like an npm command that you could get. That's not the right one, obviously, then.
But basically, I figure if there's some way for us to at least open up the discussion, if we have any concerns, or if there's any insights that will help us to make a decision, we can get at them more quickly just by reaching out, being somebody.
Yeah, so was this 220? I'm just trying to remember was this the PR? Because there was a discussion, because I think it's the key thing, whether you can easily get the data if it's not in the package.json.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that was LJ's comment. He said, what if I'm on a plane? What if I don't have, if it's a URL, I can't get it? Yeah, it's okay if it's a local file, if it's, a file URL, but if it's, that's exactly the one I'm looking at, his comment now. He says, they don't want, and to be honest, I just had that issue on the train getting over here. In tunnels, I couldn't do things just because I lost access for a bit.
Right.
And that's a valid point.
But it's I think that's the point about, you want it to be in your npm package, but the other one is like, I think there's some acknowledgement that the latest one wins. Like,
yes.
Just because you have version 1.5 and it says it's supported forever doesn't mean that's true, right?
That is absolutely right.
So it's like, okay, that's good. You can get a sense of what it was when the module was published, but really you got to go to the latest to make sure that's still valid. so then the question is, okay, when you're offline, you'll get, an estimate. When you're online, how easily can you go and get the latest thing?
Yeah.
And it sounds
And I
like,
think that was part of the idea of like why you would have a URL in there, is because then you can dynamically change the status of that exact
right.
code.
Right, but I guess the concern was that that introduces another thing you've got to manage.
Yep.
But it's, with GitHub, it's pretty easy to have a GitHub link that you could do that. And
It
so
is,
LJ's suggestion was like, if it was actually in the package.json, then you can do an npm show and you'll just get the data, right? Which is not that bad.
It all works as long as what's being referred to is in a repo or something otherwise you won't have a history of that dynamic one.
Well, the npm show actually, as long as it's an npm, that pulls it from the latest published version from the package.json that's in that latest published version.
Okay.
And I tried that out. Like you could say, I'm pretty sure you can say like your package name at latest, but it doesn't work if it's in a separate file.
Okay.
I'm looking through the comments on the code as well, and it seems like there's a lot of resolutions. Although the discussion is still open, I wonder to what extent we're blocked on proceeding with the support file as it is. These file changes are on the markdown, on a couple of markdown files. So I don't know that closing this PR is going to be blocked by that decision in particular. Maybe there's a one line where instead of saying in the package.json, they say in a separate file. But I just want to confirm what it is that's specifically blocking this PR from being merged.
Yeah, I think it's still we don't have consensus on separate file versus inline. And the dynamic thing. So I think we need like a summary proposal that says, from all the discussion, this is what we think where we're at, and see if we can get people to say, yeah, okay, that sounds good or not.
Well, so let's agree on who the other people that we need in that conversation are. That they're really LJ and Manuel. Yeah?
I think so, yeah.
So let me take that as the item for me.
Okay.
To try and reach out to them to say we'd like to reach consensus so we can land it.
Yeah.
Do we have consensus? Because it's coming down to you last two people on item 206.
Yeah, or can we? Because really, it's those dimensions. Like, because I think I'd be happy if it was in the package JSON, and then it was the latest one wins because it's fairly easy to get. Like, there's a one-line npm command to get that.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a separate file, and then, how do you get that latest file would be the question, right? And unless there's an easy way to get that, that seems like a challenge, right? Because you want a tool to be able to just, run locally, figure out if it needs to go and get some additional data and easily get that additional data. Okay, so next action is, I'll type that at the bottom here.
I'll reach out to LJ and Manuel and try and get some closure on this.
Yeah, so discuss in the package name. Okay, and Glenn, and we'll reach out to Manuel. I think I spelled that wrong. And LJ to try to see if we can find common ground and then post. Does that look fair, Glenn?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
I'll reach out. It's basically, we just got to get some, it's this very difficult summertime of year.
Yep.
Everyone's having too much fun.
Yeah, exactly. And even
too much chocolate.
even after, if you talk to them, there's like two competing things. If you can capture those two competing, like it's either this or this,
Yeah.
I think that'll help us make some progress as well, because then we could talk about like shortcomings or advantages of one versus the other. Okay. I think so. That covers that one. I think that covers 218 as well.
Mm-hmm.
And really 192 I'll open up here, but I think that
same thing, isn't it? Mark?
Basically, yeah. The only other thing we can do in parallel is, and I think it's on the manual side now, is to transfer the tool repo into the Node.js Foundation. Because I can't do that. The owner of the module has to do that. The owner of the repo has to do it. Okay, so I think we've covered those. Okay, discuss. I'm just taking notes now. Sorry, discussed meeting. And I'm going to recopy the note I put into here. Maybe that was this one.
Actually, I was about to just dump that in, so I got it.
Okay, if you want to put it in, perfect. Okay, I'll move into the next one. Thanks. Okay, so the next one is taking ideas from proposal to implement it. This is 191. And if I remember, was that you, Edgar, who opened that one? So do you want to talk about that one in next steps? We still have a manual. Sorry, Edgar.
Oh, he says his laptop just died. He's coming back.
Okay, we'll skip on to the next one then. The session Node.js Summit, I should have closed. That was closed, but basically not in time for the generator. So that one was, I just say closed. NPM ignore or package JSON files. That is 164. So let's open that one up. So Glenn, you added this one to the agenda. So I'll let you take that discussion. All right, I can open it up in the share.
I've got it. Yeah.
Everybody can see it.
64. 2, 191, 99. Okay, so yes, this is still an open item. I've not had time to work on this one. You get all the way. Gosh.
Yeah, you'd already obviously put some time into it and putting together the summary and everything.
Let me get back. So I've got to catch up back on 164. Let me take those 9 from me.
Okay.
164, catch up back on. Yeah, because basically we just want to standardize on files what is and what shouldn't be in there. And I think we've got to, I mean, a lot of them are well known and are covered, but we just need to get a list together.
Okay. Okay, so I just took the note. You'll re-ramp up on us and we'll discuss the next meeting. That sound good?
Yeah.
Okay. Which problem OSS maintainers face authors? So this is 113. So I think the new right. So I know there was some progress. Unfortunately, looks like Wes couldn't make it this week, but he was working in the Express project to get some data of what was interesting to them. A few of the things that I talked to him about, we had like a 1 hour sort of just chat about different things. Was I think he was going to come and I think I saw that when what he proposed to the Express TC was to come up with like a list of top 10, like here are the top 10 issues that we really want people to work on. How to help with triage and tagging, like some information on. It was kind of like there's probably some that things where they'd like help triaging. And if people don't know a lot, they're just happy to have some triage at all. So like identifying ones that people will feel comfortable getting involved in. And then the third one was like identifying bigger things like, I think a few things we talked about were like promise TypeScript, where they could use somebody sort of thinking at the big level and say, okay, can we work with the rest of the team there to say, well, what should the promises story be with Express, or what should the TypeScript story be with TypeScript? It might be that you don't do anything Express itself, but you've got some documentation that says, well, here's how you use Express when you're using TypeScript, or you could do something. But it was kind of like come up with and put the time in to think about those kind of problems. So those were kind of the three areas where I think we'll see some more concrete documentation of what they'd be looking for.
Yeah, because that's quite important, because that's something when we talk about bringing people in and giving them work, because most people, they say they want to do like the work, as we know, like fixing and doing triaging software. And we need to get to that point from them where we have the list of the top 10. And so we can say, well, these are our problems. Yeah, you're a volunteer, are our top 10. And this is a very well-known thing. Go triage. So that's really important, because I mean, we're writing rules, but most people don't want to be writing the guidelines. They actually want to be just doing the work. So when do we think by the next meeting that might be coming in?
Well, I know that I saw it was discussed in the TC meeting, and the comment was, hey, I just need to, do a last sync with Doug. Do a last sync with Doug to get his, make sure he's okay with this, and then he was going to bring it back here. So hopefully in a couple of weeks, but it's kind of hard to say, like you said, right?
Yeah, it's summer it's very tough, and I'll be going away again for another week sooner or later.
But I think for us, once we see that, then I think that's something concrete where we can start. We can put them into the board that we have here. So project boards. So I think like in this backlog, I would see putting it into this backlog, and then starting to try and promote those things. Mm-hmm. Looking at them and say, okay, how do we promote? First of all, we had a number of people show interest. Let's go to those people and say, hey, here are some concrete things the Express project has highlighted. How promote it through the foundation, and kind of use it as our first test case through to say, okay, does this model kind of work of how do we help triage? What are the top issues, and then the bigger picture thing. So. Okay, so I think on that one, it's really just, I'm hoping that we'll see that relatively soon. We should focus our energy, a fair amount of energy on that part.
Okay, excellent.
I guess we already have a few of them that have been added for MQTT.js. But I think waiting for the Express one, seeing what they look like, and sort of trying to promote them all at the same time would make sense in my mind.
Yeah, we can all do our thing just by even just downloading it and making sure that we understand the basics of it. I had a quick look the other day on the train. It's not as scary as we think.
Right. Yeah. Which one are you talking about?
Express,
yeah. There's lots of pieces. There's lots of moving pieces and stuff like that. Like there's a whole bunch of underlying projects, and I think helping to share that knowledge, like that's the first part, right? Once people
that's it. Yeah,
it's easier to figure out. Okay, so that's kind of the next step on there, and we'll keep our fingers crossed that we'll have something to talk about in the next meeting on that as well. And did Edgar manage to make it back in?
I will just Slack him just 1 second.
And Michael, is that what you were thinking of, the copy paste?
Yeah, I was just gonna move it though right to here.
Oh, perfect. He needs to be promoted again. He said.
Okay, yeah. So that's on me. Let me find that window. Where's participants?
Yeah. So just during the summer, a lot of us in big enterprise, there are different volumes of employees during the summer. We get a lot of young people coming in that we have to manage, and it's particularly hard. And Edgar's one of those people. And so sometimes I think a lot of things that go on we don't talk about, but it's actually a very busy time for us in many ways.
Alrighty, I'm back.
You're back. Sorry about that. Yeah, I didn't forgot I'd have to. So, right.
No
So we
worries.
were talking about 191, which you'd added to the list. So if you want to lead that discussion,
Yeah, let me pull
see
up.
if I can find that back. Or I'll just. That's the key part.
Yeah, I think actually there was a PR related to this one. I think we ended. Yeah, I created a PR number 202, which we merged last meeting. I should have taken it off the list.
Okay,
That's
so I'm
great.
just going to make a comment here that says PR to land merged close.
Excellent.
Okay, and I
Sweet.
will just put that say there.
Yep. Just wanted to save the joy of closing PRs and
Yep.
50-50. One for the last meeting, one the other half for you. Go team.
Go team. Okay, so then the last thing we have on the agenda is to look at the board. Right.
So I can speak to the Renovate Greenkeeper
Yeah.
regenerate. So I had reached out to the Greenkeeper team. I'm going to reach out again. They did reach out straight after JS, and I said, yeah. And I also said to them, it's okay for you to go raid it. You know, this is unpaid support. And I gave them sort of lists of things we'd need. Obviously, Renovate does do what we want to do. But the Greenkeeper team, for their target audience, they don't need that level.
Okay.
So it would be an extra thing for us. So I'm talking to a guy called Jan there about that regularly, and I'm gonna resend those emails again just to remind you. I can just simply ask, for a yes or no. If it's too much, that's okay. We understand, but just let us know, because as you said, we don't really want to be dependent upon one tool, and it appears that one tool does exactly, I think, what we require. The Regenerate seems to be a bit young yet, and they've just been taken over, bought out by GitHub. Right.
I mean, I think if we just, so like that's in support of this one almost, right?
Yeah.
We, that I think getting the answer, if you reach out to them again, get an answer, and then it's basically just based on that understanding, we can write up a blog that says, this is what we recommend for testing. Or evangelize testing against the LTS releases, and here's how you can do it with Renovate, right? Because you've already got that data.
Yeah, I'll do a follow-up with Greenkeeper and just to see, because I don't think I got anything back from the last time. But we did exchange straight after JSConf. But they're pretty good on a big backlog because they invested a lot of time in JSConf.
Right. Yeah, and just so. It's sort of like if we're evangelizing doing this, and then we can say, here's a couple of easy ways, and if we can do it with, Renovate, Greenkeeper, or whatever, or even if you can partially do it, Greenkeeper, it would be good still to mention, like, hey, here's some things that help you reduce what you're going to have to do.
Yeah, and I know at some point we talked about writing blog posts about that, but I know in a previous meeting, people were asking a question that I feel like we've answered before, but I don't recall. Where those posts would go, like what's the protocol? We write them, we draft them maybe as like a README in this group or something, and then escalate that to being published on like a Node medium or
on the Node Foundation medium. We can even I don't know if the OpenJS Foundation has one yet, but we can go to those groups, and they're generally open to content, and say this is what we'd like to evangelize, and they'll help us do that.
If there's like a documented process or something like that, we could maybe add it to like our how we do things, package maintenance documentation, just so I know that question's been asked in maybe 2 or 3 meetings. We'll have like a place to point to say, here's what we usually do. We'll determine on a case-by-case basis what's appropriate.
Yeah, no, that would make sense. So maybe if you want to open an issue that says document that, and you can
No worries.
make, because that other way we won't forget.
Yep.
I can jot down a few, a few thoughts on that, and then people can chime in too.
Excellent. And we have, I wasn't sure which project board to add things to, so I added 2 items that I think
Yep.
belong on the roadmap, just from the last meeting. They may be duplicates of tickets we already have,
This
but
one.
that's the
Yeah,
one
where
that
did
I
you
should
add
have
them?
added it to. Yeah, that's the one I should have added it to, but I added it to the maintenance help backlog,
Okay,
which
so
is
let's see
for reaching out to other tools and lending assistance there.
which
Yeah, the top 2
two.
ones.
So this is the other one. Is that this one? These two?
Yeah, that one and the one below it are the 2 I added in the last meeting I was in.
I just wonder how we moved them.
Might have to just retype it up.
Copy card link, no. Remove from project. It's 2 different issues though, so I could probably just remove, right?
Yeah, we could remove them and just like add them back to the regular roadmap.
Right, so why don't I do that? If that's, because I don't think this is deleting them. And then if I flip over to the other, this guy, and say plus, how do I, there must be an easy way to add in. Seriously? You think this should be easy, right?
Right.
Well, maybe.
I think you can do it from the issue itself.
Okay, so let's go over the issues.
224 and 223 were the ones.
Right, so let's go there. How do I add to the board?
Projects on the right, maybe? 3rd one down.
Projects, yeah, okay.
There
Roadmap,
we go.
okay.
Cool.
And 223. Okay.
Sweet. If I had known it was that straightforward, I would have done it
Yep.
earlier.
Okay.
And I added some milestones to that first ticket. I've never used milestones in the projects before, but you see the first milestone is outlined. You can kind of see it there on the ticket.
Is that this one that I'm looking at now, or is
Yeah,
it?
right there in the column, the
outline,
card
okay,
has
I see,
outline on
yeah.
it. It kind of shows you what state in the milestone track it has.
Okay.
And then at the bottom is the list of milestones.
Why am I not? Is that in the main issue you mean, or?
Down in the bottom, when you scroll to the bottom, it only has outline on it now, but
I
as
see, you can
outline,
add
like,
additional things.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So those are just a couple from the last meeting that I was in. I don't know if we need to like add those issues to the agenda or whatnot to keep track of them, continuously discuss them until they're wrapped up.
I think we have enough issues, like on the support levels, to sort of track our next most important things, right?
Yep.
And then once we unblock that, like once we actually agree on the thing, then we can fan out in terms of these things and get volunteers.
Yeah, there's some steps ahead of this.
Yeah.
Yep. I think the one at the top is about using the tool that Manuel already put together.
Yep.
So since it's going to be a JSON object, either in its own file or inside of the package.json, that one's probably going to change very little in terms of the content.
But I think it's kind of like I wouldn't be promoting the tool until we've got agreement on the format.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So I think they're all kind of stuck behind saying, okay, this is what it's going to be.
For sure.
We can make a big push on that, but that would obviously be part of that. Like, okay, here's the tool that will help you generate and validate them.
Cool. 100%.
Okay. So anything on this don't see anything necessary that we necessarily need to discuss or jump on right this second in this list. Anything that jumps out to anybody else?
The reach out to Travis one. It would be nice to try and to find a direct line to them. I dropped an email to them. I dropped a line to their support. They said they passed that on to their product team, but just going through support, it's probably going to take a bit long. And I think that before we get at least any kind of response from Travis, it would be, well, I mean, I will still write the blog even if we don't get a response at some point soon, but
Right.
it would be much better if we had at least some kind of their position, whether they want to, whether they're able to make changes or whether they plan to not make any changes, which sort of can change the wording of the blog itself, right?
Right. So I guess it's does anybody, so you've done it through the support team, but I don't know if anybody else has contacts there or any other ideas of how we might talk to them.
Possible. I'm not sure how I would check that. I know like it's pretty easy to tell on like LinkedIn or something, but maybe on Twitter people just don't mention that they work on.
I think I found one of their product managers on Twitter, but I haven't gone as far as poking people, random people I don't know online at that stage yet.
Right.
I was born with an underdeveloped shame gland. I don't have any problem with bothering people. So point me at.
Yeah, okay. I'll add some names on the list, I guess, on the issue, and we can see where we can.
Yeah, maybe you can just say, hey, maybe here's some people we could, like, if their Twitter handles or whatever, or I don't know.
Maybe some of us have them as a friend of a friend on LinkedIn or something.
Yep.
Okay, that sounds like a good step. You're right. At some point, we probably just have to write up what we want to write up in terms of how it is now, but. It'd be good to at least, like you said, if there's some feedback that says, oh, yeah, we're never going to do that, or yes, we think that makes sense.
And it appears that that particular issue is assigned to LJ. So I don't know if he has any input on that, but we could maybe add it to the agenda next time. We could just ask him about it. That way we don't forget.
Yeah, I'm trying to open it. What the heck?
I think it only opens in that side panel, right?
Okay, maybe that's what happened.
Of the original issue.
Yeah, so why don't we assign it to LJ? Just. I guess I assigned you to. We must have been talking about it in a meeting, right? Okay, we'll tag it for next meeting, and we can. Bring it up again there. Okay, any other things we should talk about? If not, we'll call it for. Oh, sorry, there was one other one, which was the. Sorry, I almost forgot that. Wasn't tagged, but the issue about the best meeting time.
All right.
Oh yes, this is really controversial.
Exactly. It's like, oh, almost meant that now. So there's some discussion back and forth on suggestions. What are people's thoughts?
So just from a business perspective, having the early one at 9 a.m. on a Monday is kind of like a little bit woeful for most people, because obviously Monday we get in, there's lots of issues.
Yep.
Do you know Mondays?
Not at our company, obviously. You know.
No, not at ours, but at other companies that I yeah. But so, and there was a spot perhaps on a Tuesday. You know, I mean, it all depends. This is, you know, one of those ones. The 3 p.m. obviously does work for a lot of people because it's after hours in Europe and people can get on. You know, and it's during hours, but not so early. But it's also not too early for the people on the West Coast. You know, it's you know, jolly compromise. I think the question is what day. Would Tuesday be, because I was talk on Tuesdays be better? It's hard, no matter for all of us, because you know we're all trying to fit in. You know, there is no easy time. And to be honest, most of us, if it's during business hours, we are not in control of our schedules.
Yep. But yeah, so but if if Mondays is bad, the question is does like Tuesdays 9 and 2 or 9 and 3 help?
I see more Tuesday is good messages than any other this day is good messages. And I don't see any Tuesday bad messages.
Yeah, it's just logically Tuesday is less, you know.
If nothing else, there's no like consensus, you know, against it.
Okay. So, you know, if we move from 2, so if we move to 9 and 3, I don't know why I said 2 for some reason, but I must have thought there was some conflict or something, but I don't see. Actually, let me look at my calendar. Maybe there was.
Yeah, I thought it was you. You had a conflict.
The project calendars.
Wasn't a community meeting? I seem to remember, or.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, so. I see something at 2 though. The benchmarking meeting's at 2, which I'm still okay. Let me go to next week. I don't see anything at 3 in my calendar right now anyway. So if people is everybody good with just the same times, like 9 and 3 on alternating?
Yeah, I think we should propose that and then put it out and see what people say again.
Okay. Okay, from Tuesday.
Would it make sense to go with 24-hour time or to put AM and PM on there? I know there was a question about that.
Yeah, you're right. I did that wrong last time, AM. And I could figure out what it is in UTC, but on Tuesdays. I mean, the only other thing would be like to look for like, say, a 12 or something, like 12 and 3. I don't know, but then
lunch.
Yeah, well, for me on Tuesdays, I couldn't do it on Tuesdays at 12. But it means that people who are on the West Coast would have a bit easier time at 12 than 9, I think. But then for Europe, it's later, so.
Yeah, there's no perfect. Everything's a compromise here.
Yeah. Okay, so let's propose that, and then let us know what you think, and we'll to close on this in the next meeting. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect.
Okay. So with that, I think we're done.
Well, thank you, everyone.
So thanks for everybody for coming, and we'll talk to you all later.
Bye-bye.
Cool.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank
everybody.
you. See you next time.